All right. Good morning, everybody. I am live here from the birdhouse, and today I'm very excited because we do have a special guest. We have Dave Hunter from the Crown Bees Company. So, Dave is an expert in bees and mason bees, especially. We talk about mason bees as we get into the spring. We always get excited to see them emerge for the year. You guys might be familiar with his book that we carry here at the birdhouse, Mason Bee Revolution. And we get lots and lots of questions about mason bees, about where the house should be. Does it need to be by mud? Does it need to be in the sun? What kind of predators might there be? So Dave is here today to give us a little Mason Bee 101 and answer any kind of questions you have. So if you have questions and you're watching live, you can throw those in the comments, and we'll get started. Thanks, Dave. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to have you.
That's awesome. And Liz, I've been doing mason bees for 19 years now, and it started off 30 years ago. My wife comes home from an aerobics class. She goes, "Dave, these guys had this huge apple tree, same as ours, and they have thousands of apples. We had like 6." I said, "Well, what's the difference?" She goes, "I know." So go back there. She went back there and said, "What do you guys have?" And I said, "We have mason bees." And so this is pre-internet. So you go to the library, pull up a book. It's like, oh, we put up a bee hotel, and within a few years, we had thousands of apples. And I didn't buy anything. Maybe I'm in a hot spot of the Northwest where they have these things. And you fast forward, I'm gonna say 30 years, later, and what you realize is that back in the day, these bees used to nest in old dead trees, and no one wants a dead tree in their backyard. Holes in peck in there, whatever. So these trees have all been taken down. And when I put up a bee hotel, I added a whole bunch of holes in my yard, and of course the bees flocked in to go use these holes. And so once those bees are established, then of course they're going to be pollinating everything. So that's how I got started. And then you fast forward, last recession, real estate director loses his job, and you think, can I create an industry where there wasn't one? So Orchard Bee Association is there, no longer the president of that or anything. And can you create a company where people learn about bees? And spoiler alert, my biggest competitor is ignorance. And it's just, if I started a company with tennis rackets, people would have known what to do. When you start a company with solitary, cute little cavity nesting bees, people all say, "Well, where's the honey?" Such a messy industry. And Liz, on your side, I don't know. Does everyone know everything? I mean, everyone knows what a birdhouse is, right? I mean,
yeah, in general, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any nuances that it's hard for people to, think through? Or
sometimes people don't know the difference between a birdhouse or a bird feeder, or they'll get a birdhouse and they go, okay, where should I put the food? Do I just put the food in there? It's like, no, that's where they nest. So there's differences there. Mainly we talk about the differences between what makes a bluebird house, or a wren house, or even, if you want a screech owl, you could get one of those too with a birdhouse. So
there are nuances.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And as we walk through, we've got some slides we'll look at. As we walk on through, people ask, well, what good are bees? Okay. There's no honey. Then what good are they? Okay. So the honeybee, let me back out. Out of North America's 4,000 species of bees, native bees, okay, none of them make honey. The only honey producing bee came out in the 1500s because there wasn't any alcohol on the East Coast, and you could make mead from honey. That's why it's here.
Okay.
So, okay, again, why? What do all these bees do? They don't make honey. So what's their purpose? It's like, without the bee, and butterflies are kind of there, and hummingbirds are kind of there. So you just always pollinate. Without the bees, nature just shuts down. We have the bushes and the plants that provide seeds for quail and mice that allow everything. or the oak that has someone pollinating the flowers, then provides a habitat for the bird and the deer. All of these things exist because someone is out there spreading pollen, next flower, belly flopping, spreading pollen everywhere. And bees are here in the early spring, they're here in the summer, and they're here in the fall. So this agreement between flower and bee, if there is a flower that shows up whenever, there has to be a bee at that same point.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay.
Very important. Yeah. Yeah.
So bees, bees, they have a purpose.
And in general, there's been quite a decline in not only pollinating insects, but just insects in general, right? So anything we can do to help is always a good thing.
Yeah. I've got a slide in there that we'll get into. That was there's some messy things. Okay, so one of the first things we talk kind of about is just level setting. What's the difference between the favorite bee, the honeybee, and solitary bees? Okay, and I learned all my honeybee lore from Winnie the Pooh and Honey Nut Cheerios. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you move past that? Okay, let's show our slides if you don't mind.
You got it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the big picture, honeybees make honey. Okay, and if you walk up to a hive and you kick it, guess what? Okay, you're probably going to get stung. And they do pollinate. That's their. We'll talk in a second, but they do pollinate, and the honeybee is extremely sophisticated, multiple jobs, and it's just a wildly advanced, super sophisticated bee. Okay, the solitary bee, 90% of the world's 20,000 species bees, 90% are solitary. Every female is a queen. Okay, she does all of the work. She mates. The boys are dead in a couple weeks. She's doing everything: gathering pollen, gathering nectar, laying eggs, sealing chambers. She's amazing. So 6 weeks. Both honeybee and mason bee each live about 6 weeks. I think the honeybee queen maybe lasts a year or something like that. But bees' wings only fly so many times before they get frayed and fail. So in a honeybee hive, 1,500 eggs are laid a day. 1,500 bees die a day. Okay. On the solitary side, no honey, super gentle. You're able to hold them in your hands. If the bee house is going, you could put your hand right in front of their nesting holes or right on top, and they just land on your hand, politely wait till your hand's gone. It's just a very gentle bee. Okay. And Liz, when someone asks a question, do you just want to stop? How do you want to hold this?
Yeah, we can, at the moment, there's not any questions in the comments. We could maybe save them for the very end, if that works for you.
In the middle, okay, or whatever, that's fine. That's fine. Let's go, next slide, please. Okay, yeah, the queen does everything. All of her workers gather the pollen, everything. It's a very wonderful bee. Next slide. Okay, and it's the female that as she's out there gathering her pollen nectar, she's going in a honeybee goes maybe 2 to 3 miles gathering their pollen. Really cool insect. Solitary bees, 300 feet maybe. And 300 feet doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 6 acres. And so when your bee is using your bee house, 6 acres, you don't have to have all of the pollen and nectar in your yard. Yeah. These bees are across the fence, they're across the road, they're everywhere. And unfortunately, we'll talk in a bit, that gets them into trouble with modern humans and our chemical loads. Yeah. But it's like, meh. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this one is phenomenal. The honeybee, again, 1,500 eggs are laid a day. So 1,500 mounds of pollen are needed per day. And as this honeybee goes into a flower, she's super fastidious. All of the pollen goes back to their hind legs. Dr. Eric Musson years ago, UC Davis, he said, Dave, the minute that hits the back leg, it's not pollen anymore, it's bee food. Okay. And then whereas the mason bee, she's got belly flopping, dry pollen everywhere. Next flower, belly flopping, dry pollen everywhere. And so the pollen is being spread. So we think maybe 95% of the pollen stays in the field on a mason bee, and most of it, 95% of a honeybee, goes back. Step 2, okay? Again, super sophisticated honeybee. They have a thing called a waggle dance, really kind of cool. Dark hive, and this, as the bees, they found pollen or nectar, and they're going to do a little waggle dance, and the angle of the dance matches the angle of the sun. Length of the dance is how far to go till you find this. Okay, so a bee finds that pollen, and she stays on that tree, goes back to the hive, back to that exact same tree, because every grain matters. And she's trying to strip that tree, strip that bush, but she's back to that same point. Okay, your mason bees, God, they're a meandering bee. She starts here and then hits a tree, hits a bush, hits a tree, and so the pollen cross-pollinating is phenomenal. So in orchards, we'll see 400 mason bees will triple the yield in a cherry field when you have 2 hives. That's maybe 100,000 bees. Okay, just because of how they pollinate. Yeah, very. So it's a, why aren't mason bees used in orchards and more? I think everyone says they're useless. There's no honey. I can't pick up a hive and drop it into a field, let it do it. It's a different industry. So it's it is what it is. But I think the mason bee is becoming more of a poster child for how pollination should occur. Okay, next slide. Okay, so there's 20-some thousand species. Some species are gone. We're still finding some new species, and the nuances between them. And when we say species, if there's 20-some thousand species of bees, none of them can mate with the other. Yeah. So it's a very a lot of bees. Next. Yeah. Okay. And in next slide too, or just next click. In the United States, so North America, Canada, the U.S., there's about 4,000, 4,100, 3,900. It changes. Most of them are solitary. Okay, I mean every female is a queen, and you've got bumblebees and social bees. This is where you do have a queen. Bumblebee has a queen, and there's small little bees, medium-sized bees, big-ass bees. They're just all sorts of things. And of those 4,000, about a quarter of them nest in cavities. Most of them nest in the ground. Next slide, please. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cute little bee. This around you in New York is more of a brown bee. Osmia cornifrons. It's a bee that was introduced to the U.S. back in the 80s. Dr. Batra sent the bee up and down the East Coast from Japan, and it's a wonderful bee, and it uses mud. So you'll find that. And this black bee will find more on the West Coast, and the brown bee is being spread around. And so in the big picture, we used to get our undies all bunched up. No brown bees in Washington State, and people only wanted to have native black bees in the Northeast. And the answer is we celebrate bees. That whatever we get, we use in our backyards. Okay. And what's cool about the bee? Okay, 4 wings. When they spread apart, they make kind of 2. Each side of the wings, as they fold apart, they make a little bigger wing. There's a little clip. There's cool little clips that go, burp, and they've just got, it's a cool little bee. The mandibles, the things here, some bees use that for clipping leaves. This bee uses that for mining dirt out of the ground. This bee in front of you is a moist, clayey mud using bee. Well, next picture.
Oops.
Back one thing. Okay, right there. Okay, so the bee is in the air 6 weeks, but it's alive probably a year. So upper left-hand side, right now we're in February. It's a dormant adult bee in a cocoon. And then whenever the dandelions or the plum or cherry, whenever those trees show up, that's typically when that tree is saying, hey, I need a spring bee. And this bee has overwintered with that tree, with that dandelions, and nature just works that they both come out about the same time. Okay, they're going to mate. The boys, boop, they're dead in a couple weeks. And through the spring, they're just the bee's job. They're just pollinating. They're grabbing pollen and nectar, and they find she lays an egg, and then she's out there sealing her chamber. And in her short little 6-week life, she's probably going to do 2 nesting holes. Maybe that's about a dozen eggs. So she's actually perpetuating her species. And then through the so those little eggs, tiny. It looks like a little grain of rice. We'll see the next slide on that. Looks like a little grain of rice, and that little that little grain right there. It hatches and then slowly consumes all the pollen. And by June, you've got that lower part of the slide down there is that egg has become a grub or a larva and has consumed all the pollen. And then right around June begins to spin a cocoon, pushes all the poop on the outside. I wouldn't want poop in my bed. So it spins a little cocoon and then metamorphoses into adult bee by October. And it's in October, it has a full fuel tank. And through the winter, it slowly sips that fuel tank. By April, that fuel tank's down to 10%. And when it gets warm outside, it's like, off I go. And they do their thing. And you'll see in here, this is a mud using bee. See these little kind of little discs of mud in there? That's to keep the predators out. We'll talk about predators in a bit, but that keeps the predators out. That kind of keeps the egg in her chamber, his chamber. And when we look at nature, down in the deserts, there are bees that gather pollen and nectar, lay an egg, and seal their chamber with cactus pulp. Or there's chewed up vegetation, or pebbles, or tree resin. All of these different bees have evolved to have chewed up leaf bits or cut leaves, the leaf cutter. All of these bees have evolved to use some door material for their survival. Okay, next slide. This is a bad slide. Okay, so if there are 4 issues that we have, the common denominator through all of this is humans. Okay, habitat loss. In my backyard, we knocked off, whoever knocked off the old dead tree. Okay, and I have a house, I have roads, I have green lawn. All of these things are barriers to a ground nesting bee can't really go into, can't get past a weed block or lawns or all those things. So we've done a lot of taking away where the bees can go. Okay, climate change is a little messy. In particular, the shoulder species. So shoulder meaning springy something, fally something. Okay, around me, I'm in the Seattle area. It has been abnormally warm. Yeah. And normally my daffodils and stuff come up in late March. They're poking up here in early February. Okay, so and the mess with that is my bees and my flowers. My bee might show up early. my flower might show up early, no bees. And so this was called phenology. The intersection of bee and plant are just out of whack.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we we've taught people how to kind of think this one through. But climate change is a mess, and you know, when a bee comes out a little late, there's probably flowers out there. When a bee comes out a little early, it's like, and you're dead.
Yeah.
So there's a mess. Um, pesticide use, larvicide, herbicide, side. Um, sides impact these cavity nesting bees in 3 different ways. The adult bee can get on something and just die. Boop. Okay. She can land on something with a larvicide in it, grab that pollen, pull it back, put her nesting hole. She's grabbing this pollen from this 6-acre radius, and if there's larvicide sprayed out in that 6 acres, and then she lays that egg in there, that egg larva never makes it.
Yeah.
And then the other hard part, it's kind of maddening. We've learned that my yard, it's an oasis. We have everything you want, but my neighbor, false green lawn, and they're just spraying the crap out of it. And unfortunately, it's not only just my bees are going to travel in the yard, but that downwind plume a lot of times has the bees just saying, I'm out of here. It's not safe. Okay, and a honeybee, God, it's chained to a hive. So it has to fly through. In orchards, they're spraying fungicides and everything. That honeybee has to fly through that toxic stew because they've got to support their queen, get the honey, and get their eggs. So it's a great insect for a gross lethal environment. Mason bees, they give you the wing. It's like, meh. And then introduced pests and diseases. This is, okay, let's go on the honeybee side. This is, again, just mid-February. Every commercial hive in America is in California right now with the almonds, okay? And so the bees will go North Carolina, okay? And whatever diseases those bees have picked up in North Carolina, they're put on a truck, they're trucked all across the US, and now they're in 3 million hives, are all in California, and they're in their 2 or 3 mile extent, and I'm passing off my North Carolina diseases I'm leaving there in flowers and everything. And so other bees from wherever else in the country, all these diseases are just being spread everywhere back to their hive. And so now whatever bees have got these new hives or new diseases heading up to Oregon and Washington, following the blooms, and they're spreading those North Carolina diseases to it's smallpox or what, they're just spreading it to, and it finally goes all the way across over and finishes up in New York. So these diseases, every disease is just spreading around. That's the honeybees. You guys have around you now, someone 10 years ago got a nesting hole from England, could be Germany, and sent this filled reed to either Seattle or Vancouver, BC, right there, okay? And inside that little stupid reed was the Houdini fly. And it's just this cute little fly that has no predators out here. And this little fly, it sits outside nesting holes, looks like this tiny, tiny little cute fruit fly with big red eyes. And it waits till the bees out of its, the bees been putting pollen and nectar in there. And as it flies back out, this cute little fly walks in there, lays some eggs, and comes back out and just sits on the outside of the hole. The bee ignores it. They've never evolved with it. And this little fly wipes out, any nesting bee, okay? And people from the Seattle area have mailed hey, Aunt Mabel, here's some cool mason bees from Seattle, and they've given them to New Jersey and to New York and to Pennsylvania. And so now this stupid fly is just spreading everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is all of this is us, pesticides, diseases, climate change, habitat loss. It's a mess. And even what you'd said Liz, just a bit ago, you were talking about the insects disappearing. 30 some years ago, so two German researchers were driving in their pristine German reserves, and no, probably maybe like 10 years ago. They said, "Hey, you notice I don't notice that many smushed insects on my windshield anymore." And they had data that they had for 27 years had been getting biomass, like all flying things trapped in a tent, and every single month they would go weigh this stuff. And what they noticed over 27 years, there's been an 80% decline of insects in the pristine German reserves. And these entomologists said, "Hey, rest of the world, who else has data?" No one had data, but the scientists of the rest of the world saying, "Oh, we're very much missing insects too." And so it's not just bees; it's everything.
Yeah.
And okay, Liz, a couple of years ago, I've heard people say, "Oh, the songbirds are missing from the Northeast or something."
Oh, yeah.
And okay, you say, "Well, gosh, what do the songbirds eat?"
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right? And I don't want to have Lyme disease, so let's go aerial spraying for Lyme disease in full counties and everything. Guess what happens to all living, flying insects?
Right.
And no one wants, no one wants the encephalitis. No one wants all these things, so we're just spraying, malaria. It's just it's so hard being a bee in our human controlled world. Okay, so that's a negative slide. Okay, next slide. What can we do?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that I appreciate, Liz, that you're starting to carry our products. We've been very careful over the years. We've been working with Cornell's, UC Davis's, all sorts of USDA's. We've been working to think through be safe ideas. And if you want to have your bees thrive, you've got to be able to have a house that works and do a little bit of maintenance, maybe 20 minutes a year. Okay. So this be safe things is when we follow some rules, we can reduce pests and diseases. You are harvesting, so that's opening things up, and fresh reads every year. Okay, Liz, as an example, if I have an Airbnb,
Yeah.
and I never ever change the sheets in my Airbnb, would you want to stay there?
No, I would not.
Okay, we the humans sophisticated go, "Oh, that's gross." Okay.
Yeah.
So these bees didn't evolve that way. They evolved dead tree. Okay. I use that little hole up here. And the following year when those bees come out, that hole deteriorates behind them. And so they evolved to have fresh holes every year. They didn't think through. We have these man-made houses that just are here. And it's just, we're giving them death if we don't do a little bit of maintenance. Okay. Next slide. What this means is that the house, yeah, we want to keep them protected. This little triangle slot on the top part, this allows us to put cocoons. It's called a hatchery. We put cocoons in there. These reeds, paper tubes in the middle, we're giving them fresh sheets. We're pulling these things out. We're managing. So nothing is glued in. We've got bird guards that can feel on top. We've just tried to think through these simple elements that you've got holes that are fresh, that can be opened up, thick enough. There's parasitic wasps. There's some gross things out there trying to get to our bees. We've just thought through these parameters, and everything that Liz, you're going to be carrying from ours works for the bees.
Perfect.
And the only caution is that in the fall, we ask that you open these reeds up that have been used. And you'll find in there um, because we've got so many tight things in this, so much pollen and nectar in this small area, nature just gravitates to pollen mites, parasitic wasps. There's fungus, the now Houdini fly. All of these things are going after either larvae, the pollen, or the bees. Okay,
Mhm.
so if we do nothing, those pests stay inside there, and the bees will leave the fall and spring, and those pollen mites are left there. So the next year, oh, I didn't know, here's old sheets, I didn't realize it. They'll go back in and use those old holes that have the pollen mites, and they just feed, or have the Houdini fly, have the all these things. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is easy. How you can help.
Yep.
Yard oasis, okay? Um, what type of plant should I have in my yard? Go over to a local nursery, and in April or whatever, go walk through the nursery and see what plant the bees are buzzing on. Bumblebees, honeybees, whatever. Buy that plant, okay? And actually walk through closely. There'll be some tiny little bees in there that you'll find on some other plants. Buy that plant. And then you come back in June, and there are bees buzzing on some other plant. And so by buying those plants, you're actually gardening for wildlife.
Mhm.
And most of these are flower producing something, so they should be beautiful. And so we're saying diversity of plants from springy something all the way into August. Um, Safe nesting materials. So if you want to attract ground nesting bees, um, have some gross spots that don't have grass in it and not too much mulch. Bees can move in there. And then just, Liz, I gave you a dog and you never fenced it. You left the, there's garbage and, oh, we would never do that, because when we get a dog, we think through care and grooming and fencing, and, we think all those things. With bees, it's the same thing. If I'm going to have bees in my yard, let's just learn to take care of them.
Mhm.
And it's really honestly like half an hour a year. It's not that much time.
Just like cleaning
Next.
out your bird houses, can do your bee houses at the same time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, and have you ever seen, you must have it. Do bumblebees ever use birdhouses?
You know, not that I've ever experienced. I've seen wasp nests and bee houses, but I'm sure it's happened to somebody around here. But I've never experienced it myself or seen
So
one.
I have a birdhouse on a shovel handle. So cute little whatever it is. Boop. And some bumblebee went in with a yellow, orangey back thing. It was very aggressive. Walked next to my little birdhouse and I'd get stung. Okay, so you moved away. But when a bumblebee uses a birdhouse, it's gross. You almost have to throw the thing away. It's been so It's so gross. Okay,
Yeah.
I would think birds would be much cleaner than bumblebees.
Oh man, something to look for to look out for.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, next slide. Okay, so again, it is. I guess the important part is to think through, and we can stop the slides here. The important part is to think through. When you think like a bee, the bees are looking for a hole to nest in. Okay, take the slides away, Liz. Just go off. Yeah. So if there's 5 things, I'm thinking like a bee. Okay, the bees come out and she's mated. Okay, so I've got that out of the way. And as I'm buzzing around trying to find some place to nest, I'm looking for pollen and nectar. Okay, I'm looking for holes of the right size. There are in New York small little 3 mil holes that Osmia atraventris, Osmia pumila go into. Pollen, egg, chewed up leaf bits. Okay, small little holes, medium and large. They're looking for door material. So some bees use moist clay, some bees use chewed up vegetation, some bees use pebbles, and then lastly, an environment that doesn't stink. Okay, so and we have on our website. So My yard again is pristine, and my neighbor, it's like, you can go to our website, type in, search for the word neighbor, and here's a little half piece of paper that you can say, hey neighbor, you can put it on mailboxes, you can hand it to them. Hey neighbor, my bees are pollinating your yard for the next 6 weeks. They're gentle, blah, blah, blah. Ken, for the next 6 weeks, could you not spray chemicals in your yard?
Yeah.
And so can we turn my yard oasis, can you expand that oasis? And we think that cavity, raising mason bees helps, we think helps a lot of bees out because more people become aware, they're gentle, we can talk about them. There's my discussion. Any questions out there?
There is a question. There's a bee question, not necessarily a mason bee, but we do get this question all the time. Can you talk about ground bees and how to prevent them or deal with nests? We've had them near our pool. They get very angry when disturbed.
Okay. In fairness, anything buzzing, everyone goes, bee, okay? Mm-hmm. And so if you're walking in your yard and 3/4 of the bees are nesting in the ground, if you find a whole bunch of bees using one common hole, that's a social bee. And if you stand next to it, you're probably going to get stung, okay? Mm-hmm. Again, that's maybe 10% of the bees, but you'll notice that you'll get stung. If the bees are using independent little holes, those are solitary. They want to be next to each other, but they don't necessarily, use the same holes. Stand next to them. Don't worry about getting stung. Okay. Typically, you're going to get stung by ground wasps, yellow jackets type stuff, and those are all ground nesters. And either A, they're not going to use it the following year, so you can stake, know where it's at and just walk around it. There's an answer. Around here, I've had friends where someone's nesting in this of my, right next to my front door or something, and they're all going in and out of this little hole. And so you can sit there and treat them with chemicals, or you can put a vacuum cleaner, like a shop vac, right next to the hole. And as they come in and out, you kind of just prop something up against her, and all of these hornets or wasps will go down into the vacuum cleaner. And now you gotta, and bang on the walls, and they all come out. And within half an hour, you've got all of the bees down in the, or hornets or wasps, down inside. I would never. Bees aren't that bad, but there's a no chemical, hack.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, actually. And we do have locally, just as an aside, there is a local company that will grab wasp nests, or if it's something that they can actually harvest, they will take it out of your yard. We did find a place last year that'll do that locally, so you never know. I do have a couple questions also about the harvesting of the cocoons. Say if your house doesn't have one of those little chambers to put them in, can you store them in a refrigerator? Like, can you do something like that, or where's a good place to store them?
Okay. Part of it is plain nature and not plain nature. Okay. Mm-hmm. So in the springtime, I want to have my bees come out when I want them. So I've got them actually in my fridge. And when bees are held in a fridge, their metabolism is really low, and their consumption of those stored fats is slower. So by the time spring rolls around, I might have a 20% fuel reserve instead of a 10% or something like that. Whereas if bees are outside in nature, if it's warmer, their metabolism is higher, they go through their stored fats faster. Okay, it's supposed to be synchronous with the trees and the bushes, and so everything comes out the same. But with this global warming, okay, so bees in a fridge, as you in the spring, you're able to take some of the cocoons and say, oh look, I've got early fruit trees, I'm going to put them outside. I'm going to wait a couple weeks, put more cocoons out, and then I'm going to wait another 2 weeks. So I've now got bees spread. I've placed them outside for 4 or 5 weeks, and so instead of having 6 weeks, I've got maybe 12 weeks worth of bees. Okay, so putting them in your fridge allows you to kind of handle them, and realizing that these are modern frost-free fridges When we put lettuce in there, what happens? It wilts and all the water is sucked out. Okay. Same thing happens with bees. If you just put the cocoons in there, they're going to dehydrate and you just killed your bees. So we have a thing called that you don't carry it yet, Liz, but in the fall, it's called a humidity. And it's just a little clamshell that keeps moisture in there. It kind of acts like a crisper drawer. And so we have bees in the fridge. And, if you keep them in your garage, or so people keep them in their garage. Sometimes people keep them in their fridge. And it's a learning curve.
Sure. Okay. I also want to know if there are any suggestions you have on where a mason bee house should be placed, as far as facing a certain direction or up a certain height.
Okay. We always put our houses facing morning sun. So east, southeast type thing. The bees will come out, and it's typically in the early spring. So mason bees are early spring. They're going to come out and they just sit on the front of their nesting hole, and they're a darker color. And they just absorb the radiation. And after 5 or 10 minutes, off they go. And so morning sun is best. Okay. And how high? If I've got little kids in my house, I'm going to have it this high. Or if I'm a tall person, I'm going to have it this high. And the difference is you want to watch what's going on. You can put them way up high underneath, but you just don't. You lose the adventure of seeing these bees in action. And it is wild. We have them on our back porch over here, and we have thousands of bees, and they're all doing this, and we're eating dinners, and oh my gosh, these bees are just everywhere through you, and it's easy to ignore until someone says, oh look, here's a hole, and it's like oh, they're just trying to find a new hole. It's like, gross, just get away from me. They're not going to sting you. That's just the only, so it's a very, very mild. That's what we do around here. Sit underneath them and watch them go.
Awesome. Well, those are the questions I had, and it looks like those were all the questions online also. I do want to thank you for joining us today, for answering all these questions, and for just giving us, I'm a big believer in everybody can make small choices of what they do in their daily life that can make a big impact, and this is one of them. So we want to make sure that we give everybody the right information about what they wanted about keeping bees like this. So I really, really appreciate that. And we are carrying now, we're getting our shipment in today of Crown Bees items. So we'll have your wild bee guide in, which you can see here. Yeah. Which you mentioned is a really good guide if you want to know all this information in a small package. This has it all for you, right? This book.
Yeah, and actually we just the 4th edition of that, we just plopped that up. That took so many months of 28 pages of every page, so reworded to death, but it's a very, very concise thing. And the Mason Bee Revolution is a good book. Yeah, both of those are easy reads. And Liz, we've already talked. This book that's edition 1 you have, and she's going to change that to the 2nd edition. We'll get you new copies. And the 2nd edition was, I guess the first book went well enough that they needed a 2nd edition. And this one, the philosophy here is more thinking like a bee. And we've talked about the mason bee, and there's cool little summer bees, and there's wild bees, and it's what do we do?
And we will not only have your Crown Bees houses, and we'll have the reeds and all of that, but we're also going to have the bees themselves this year, which we've never had before. So we're really excited about that. We will have those bee cocoons that you can buy yourself. And just like you were saying, you can sprinkle them in your yard throughout the season. And so we're super excited about that. So those will be arriving tomorrow, and we'll be promoting those in our emails and everything like that. So you can come in and get those within the next couple of days, which is really exciting.
It's so fun to team with you. You guys have got a great store out there. And so this will be no need to get it from me. Go get it from Liz.
Thank you. Well, thank you again. And again, thanks for getting up so early to join us today from the West Coast. We really appreciate that. But we will log off here. We'll be back live on Saturday with another broadcast here from the Birdhouse. And till then, you guys have a great week and we will talk to you soon. And thanks again to Dave for joining us today. Bye-bye.